Welcome everyone to Let's Play Hegemony III Clash of the Ancients. This will be the first video on a new Let's Play series. As such, we'll begin a new game. The unification of Italy is the full map. Etruria is like a smaller portion of the map, so this is the grand strategy map. We'll use it. The next thing we have to do is make a decision about which of the many factions to play as. Always an exciting thing for me is to sit down and look through each of these, compare attributes, think about which is the best, do my little min-max game. Having done that, I'm just going to highlight a few of my favorites and probably explain a little bit about, in this pop-up box, what it means that the faction group is Greek, what the number of native cities means, etc. So just starting with the Locris, which happens to be my favorite faction to date. The faction group is Greek. The Greeks effectively combine heavily armored hoplite battle lines with the fast supporting fire of peltis, psiloi, and mounted javelineers. Basically, the faction group Greek means that you're going to deal with hoplite front lines and then peltis supporting lines for your ranged attack. I don't think I've used anything in those, but they have 3 or 4 different versions of hoplites. Most other faction groups only have 2. But really all you need is 2, so it's like there's so many, and some of them have really minor differences, so what would I say about these? Well, I think the faction group Greek is the second best in the game, second only to the Etruscans. I haven't really played extensively as the Latin group, which is Rome is the only faction in the faction group of Latin, so let me see, what did I want to say about the Locris then? Well, their attributes I think are the best in the game. If I had to rank the attributes that you could get bonuses to, at least for the economy, I would rank population growth first and recruitment rate second. Population growth is just going to allow you to expand on all things because your city's growing bigger means that you get more taxes, you have bigger recruitment because bigger cities have higher recruitment rates, and you have access to higher upgrades, which means that you can further specialize in getting markets to increase your tax rate, sewers to increase your production rate more. So it's kind of a snowball-y thing that once you get to higher population cities, you start to kind of win the game. At least against the AI, I feel like the higher population is really where the advantages are at. It does come at the cost of having more food, higher food consumption, but usually by the time you get to the higher level cities, you're overstocked on food and it's not a concern. Okay, so the Locris, they have both of these two things, which I think are independently the best, and they have both of them, and a pretty sizable increase for both at 25%. Now, if you want to play a new game, my recommendation for your first game, just to keep things really simple, and you can restart whenever you get the hang of it, is to go to casual, pick the Locris, and then you can even help yourself out a little bit more by going down to the Region and turn them off as players. So in this box we see number of native cities 3. Now if you pick a faction, this means the number of other cities that you're going to be able to conquer without having any penalty to... It's like a culture thing. It's described as a culture penalty. But basically if the city you conquer is your exact same faction, so in this case the Locris cities, you don't have to have any garrison inside. There's no penalty to their morale or whatever. If you capture any other city, you need to garrison them, otherwise they begin to lose morale and eventually they'll revolt. This changes when you get to colonists. You can just send colonists to your cities, and then this will change the culture to your culture, and then you don't have to worry about that. But it's usually pretty late in the game, so it's kind of nice to be conquering your cities first. Now, if you turn the Region off, what's going to happen is the 3 cities that the Region owns, the 3 native cities that are Region, they will be still culturally Region, but there will be no faction Region, so there'll be no big monstrous AI trying to attack you. The 3 cities turn into 3 independent Greek cities, which means that they probably won't attack you, and if you attack them, you only have to deal with them one at a time. So it might make the game a lot easier. For my purposes, I want to keep on all the AIs, especially because I don't plan on playing around this area, so there's no point for me to turn them off. The Region themselves are kind of like a shipbuilding group. Ship speed, ship ramming damage, fishery output. And of the resource collection locations, fisheries are the least important, I find. One, because they lose all their output during the winter, and two, because they have the lowest output of food anyway. You can get more food from the farms. Okay, so then the Locrees, we have them. They have their recruitment rate, population growth, really good things. Croton, I think, are the best combat-oriented faction. Now, they're still faction group Greek, so in my opinion, one of the Etruscan groups might be better, like possibly the Northern Etruscans, or North Etruscans. I think it should be Northern, but whatever. So if you were to pick a combat-focused Etruscan city, which, I guess there's really not that many. XP earned in combat, that's not bad, max morale. Although maybe defenses are better. Yeah, between these two, I'm not sure which one's better, but XP earned in combat is pretty nice. Although flat defenses, basically you can spend some of your XP to get defenses to begin with. So, I don't know. But the Crotons have just a huge advantage. It's not just defense, it's not just one thing or another, it's everything gets a 15% bonus. Defense, ranged attack, and melee attack. I think that's the best. That's my opinion. So they're very strong. Now the Peltas the Greeks have, I've said that they're the second best ranged unit in the game, the archers being the first, but the advantage of the Peltas is they can actually hold their own in melee combat as well. If the archers get into combat, I think they have a combat value, melee attack rating of 1, where your typical rating is like between 50, maybe for the elite units up to 150. So at the best case scenario, your archers have 50 times worse of an attack than any other unit they're going to be attacking. So you definitely want to keep them ranged. But the Peltas have I think a 75 attack or something. It's pretty decent, and you can use that to your advantage. You can just have units of Peltas operating independently. They won't need support. Definitely can't do that with archers. Okay, well, let's keep moving on. What do I want to say about the tax output, mine output? So my first playthrough was as the Locrees, but my second was as Campania. The tax output does help. I think the scaling benefits for population growth, getting to higher cities faster, higher population cities, is just better. And the max morale Campania has is also useful. So in this one you have this bonus to both combat and economy, which makes the Campania pretty strong. Unfortunately, I find the faction groups for the Sabellic and the Illyric a little underwhelming, which could make them an exciting faction to pick if you want a bit of a challenge. However, if you're trying to min-max and pick the best people, the Illyrics and the Sabellics, this is actually true with the Latin group too, they have their ranged unit is the Velites, and those are slightly weaker than the Peltas. I think they're very similar to the Peltas, but I think they have a slightly lower ranged attack value, which means if you have a Velites and a Peltas going up against each other, the Peltas will win one-on-one, and that's not ideal. Okay, so I think the Campania is another interesting choice. Definitely Rome is an interesting choice because the Latin faction group has all the interesting units you've probably seen from Rome Total War. They have the Hastati, the Principe, or Principe, I don't know how it's pronounced, and also the Triarii. And I think just by reading the descriptions, although I haven't seen them and I haven't used them in combat myself, those look pretty strong. The only disadvantage is that Rome doesn't have archers, they only have the Velites, and I think that's a little unfortunate. Which brings us to the Etruscans, which have a bit of everything. Their description says the Etruscans draw from their hierarchy of social classes to fill a diverse roster. And it's true. They have everything. They have, if I can try to name these off the top of my head, they have this unique axeman, which they say in their description, which are a very good starting unit. They also have hoplites, both a standard, a fair hoplite, and they also have a heavy hoplite. Then they have archers, which I've already sung their praises a bit, but if you keep them in the back, they're just the best range unit. They have the highest damage and the highest range. After that, you have both light and heavy cavalry and light and heavy swordsmen. So really take your pick. The Etruscans have it all. And I think for that reason, we'll go ahead and pick the Etruscans, the North Etruscans. I keep wanting to say Northern Etruscans. We'll go ahead and pick these people. We'll pick normal as our difficulty. And next thing we want to do is just choose, what's our person going to be like? Well, we'll go neckbeardius. And I think the things I'm going to want are economy based. So we'll go with population growth. Recruitment rate we'll keep, but we want skill research as well. That's our tech tree, so the faster we can get tech up, the better. Last thing we want to do is just pick a guy with a bit of a neck beard. That guy looks fine to me. So we'll go ahead and hit play on this. Now it's going to load up and it's going to start zooming in dramatically, but we'll just pause and tap an arrow key to make that zoom happen a whole lot faster. These things that are going to happen on the sides are pretty useless comments like, oh, select the unit, you know? Okay, wow. The first thing we want to do is appoint our leader as governor. Hello, governor. So appoint governor. Now he's actually contributing his bonuses to the city. Note that if you just leave him there in the city as a garrison, he won't be doing that. So make sure you appoint your governor, especially if you have an economic focused leader like I have created. Okay, the next thing is, before the tutorial begins to tell us what to do, which there is a small delay, we'll see it, but there is a small delay, we'll go ahead and start preemptively doing the things that they want us to do, which starts by creating a worker. We'll go ahead and him capture that point, and we'll create a axeman at the same time. Now the axemen are a little faster, so I think he'll actually get there first. That's why I've created an axeman too. Let's see. Now here's the tutorial objective thing coming in. So if we had waited all that time, we would finally be getting this thing now. We need to gather food. Okay, good. So recruit worker brigade, well, one step ahead of you. Now they cross it off. It's a little min-max, but hey, we can save ourselves like 10 seconds if we just do it for ourselves. It looks like we have a raider outpost up here. Actually, this is one of the reasons why I like this map though, the North Etruscans. Because they are surrounded by a lot of raiders. Which is actually... Oh, whoa boy. We might have overdone it here. Looks like they're coming for us. We will have to engage, it looks like. Well, this is going to be a very exciting beginning. I did not expect this, that's for sure. Let's get these axemen out. We need this axeman to hold the line as long as possible for the reinforcements to get there. Okay, charge, just charge. Ah, those guys are interrupted, but that's fine. Just let's go. I would prefer other retreating. That's wonderful. Let's try this again. Okay, let's have this guy attack this slinger and this guy also attack that slinger. We can win this battle. Our axemen, if I pause for a second, I'm going to hit F1. Our axemen are usually best if they, well, shoot, this is not showing. Or is it? Yes. It's usually best if they get a missile attack off first. It's a free attack, but only a range of 4. You'll notice that their slingers, while they only do 5 damage, have a missile range of 8, so double our range. But this does mean that if we charge the slingers, we should easily overwhelm them because their combat strength is 1 in 50, the same as the archers. If you get them into actual combat, they're just pathetic. So let's hurriedly save our units here. We'll switch this guy over. Looks like we're going to lose that one, but that's okay. We're now engaging the slingers, and that's also important. Go ahead and push these guys out now, and actually capture that. It's a very chaotic start. We'll get our new axeman. That's the old axeman that we just lost, but now, good. Now, the thing is, I do want to capture these units, so hopefully I can capture those guys. Looks like they're going to escape. How many is that? 6. Damn. Go, 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 go. I'm not sure I'll get there in time. I really want to capture those units. These guys will capture just fine. So why am I really insistent on capturing units? Because it's very important to get slaves, and these captured units are your main supply of slaves. Come from capturing defeated enemy units. They are basically going to be they are basically going to end up being our supply of workers, but for free. It looks like we might even be able to capture these guys. Are they gonna... Usually they go into the fort and then you can't capture them. We might have a fighting chance here. Okay, well, let's keep all the slaves back here. We got a good bunch. And let's go ahead and capture that, because we're still losing money and food. Okay, good. I think we will be able to get these guys. They have 6 still. As the defeated units retreat further, they start to lose people. So they might be down to 5 by the time we actually get to them. Let's move these guys. Let's go ahead and destroy this camp, because I could use the money and there's no reason to keep it. We can always rebuild it later. So we will capture these guys and we will get, ooh, all 6. Excellent. This is really nice, actually. We're starting off in really good shape. Oh, another engagement. Okay, well, this is fun. If you start off as the North Etruscans, you do start off surrounded by camps, but these are usually just a supply of slaves for you, so I don't usually mind too much. Well, it looks like we'll be able to win this battle too. I mean, the reason we're winning is because they have 1660 and I'm 7575, but then plus my defense, I get 7586. Because remember, the Etruscans, the North Etruscans, have the 15% bonus to their defense. Yada 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 for those tooltips. Okay, good. So we have successfully won. We want to capture these guys. More slaves, more good. The only disadvantage of slaves to workers is that they do move slower. Okay, now that we have captured this, we just need to link it up with a supply line. Currently it's showing nowhere to stockpile, which means that if you don't have it connected by supply line to something, all the food and all the money that's produced just gets dumped into thin air. So you don't recover any of it. It doesn't get saved at this location. It's not like that. You have to teleport it, well, transfer it by these little caravans that we'll see. You have to transfer it with these little guys to your city. And now we'll actually start increasing our money. But because I've built 3 axemen already, we're still negative. Well, that's fine. What I'm going to do is then I'm also going to... Oh, let's get this out of the way. Okay, so we completed Feed the People. Now it wants us to discover new regions and build a combat brigade. Well, we did discover a new region up here, so we'll get 1 out of 3 done. And we already had 3 combat brigades, so this one will finish at least 2 parts of it immediately. Boom, and we did discover... Oh man, it wants us to discover 3 new regions? Well, that's a bummer. Okay, so as far as upgrades go, for your resource collection locations, there's 2 things you'll want to consider doing. Either building a resource production or living quarters. If you do the resource production, it just gives a 50% bonus to the workers. So basically this will go up to 30 and this will go up to 21. So what's the advantage of the living quarters then? Well, it increases the number of people you can hold by double. So instead of holding only 20 workers, I'll be able to hold 40. How this works is you gain a certain number of income or food per worker. Obviously in this case it's 1 income per worker. And currently we're in spring, which means that it's 0.7 per worker for food. So the resource production will give this a 50% bonus, but the living quarters means that if you hold double the amount of workers, you essentially have 100% of the bonus. The only penalty you pay is if you have workers, they cost 10 per week to own. So as we'll see here, my Etruscan workers cost 10 coin per week. So although I'm doubling the amount of production I have, I am also doubling the amount of cost I have to pay my laborers. Now note that this is completely nullified if you're using slaves. Slaves cost nothing, they're totally free. So the best situation is to upgrade all of your resource locations to living quarters and then use slaves for everything. And if you have a method of slave farming, or if you can build slave markets, which eventually with the production tree, you can see here we enable slave trading. With these mechanisms, you can actually get an unlimited amount of slaves. Like over time, you can generate yourself as many slaves as you need. It won't be instantaneous. You have to work for it, you know, by capturing units or by waiting for the slave trade market to supply more slaves. But this does mean that ideally, all of your locations will be worked by slaves who are in living quarters. Now, at the very start, you don't have the ability to create that many workers because your workers still do cost recruits from your recruit pool. And you want to save this for your war units. Even though my general does increase the recruitment rate, it's still not that high, so plus 3.4. I think that's per week or per tick. Not exactly sure what this 3.4 means exactly. But you don't want to use your recruitment on soldiers. You only want to use it on soldiers. You don't want to use it on workers. so that's the end of that. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of workers. What I'm going to do, we have a whole bunch of slaves. So what I'm going to do is click a living quarters here. For the beginning of the game, I'm going to reserve my my living quarters for livestock farms and mines, because these are the most important, basically the money-making ones. Maybe also a logging camp, but I don't want it for farms, because general farms, they only give you food. And eventually you'll find that food is the least important of your resources. Oh, goodness me, sorry about that. Okay, so let's continue forward. We do see that there's some rebel troops down here as well, some brigands, some raiders. We also have this another raider camp over here. So lots of potential slaves. For the time being, I'm just going to march all my slaves into this little area. The living quarters won't be ready until we get all the wood over there. But for the time being, I don't have any other place for the slaves to go anyway. What I'll probably end up doing is building... I'll probably end up building a camp here or here. I just destroyed that one. No, probably here. And then I'll feed the lumber mill and the livestock farm into that and connect that with my main city. In fact, it's probably worth doing that soon. Okay, cool. So the last of the 3 tutorial objectives has now appeared. They want me, my general, to leave this city and to visit a whole bunch of different places. Parma, somewhere over here. No, okay, let's just skip the dramatic moving. Well, Adria's not close, huh? And Spina, and Ravenna. The good news is we have 5 other cities which are our faction type, meaning Northern Etruscan. But the bad news is they're pretty far away, and I have to visit all of them with my governor, which means that he has a lot of traveling to do. And while he's doing that traveling, he won't be providing the bonuses that he currently provides. That he currently provides for this city. So, bit of a trade-off there. I do see that our time has gone a bit over 20 minutes. I think I'll pause this video here, call to a close, and we'll pick up with our attacks on the raiders in the next episode. So thanks for watching. Take care.